I am excited to bring you another edition of the MASSP podcast. My name is Ryan Casey, and today we have a returning guest, Principal and MASSP board member Tracy Wilson of Grand Haven High School. Last episode, she talked about the Shadowy Student Program teachers use to live a day in the life of their students. But today, she's going to share out on their parent learning walks, which invites parents in to tour the building and to visit classrooms to see live instruction even. She has a ton of resources that go with it, which she is happy to share as well. So enjoy your ride to or from school, your run on the treadmill, or however you like to listen, because another MASSP podcast episode starts now. And we are back once again with Tracy Wilson, the principal at Grand Haven High School and longtime MASSP Board of Directors member. Tracy, thank you so much for taking the time to join the podcast once again.
Thanks for having me again, Ryan. Like I've always said to you, the opportunity to share out with other administrators across the state, it's great for us to always be able to beg, borrow, and steal from one another.
Absolutely. You know, last time before the end of the first half of the year, you and I had a chance to talk about your really cool Shadow a Student program to really help teachers understand the life and the day of a student that walks the halls of Grand Haven High School. And from that conversation, we talked a little bit about parents getting an understanding of that. And we started talking about your parent learning walks. And I just thought it was such a cool idea that we needed to have you on back-to-back episodes so we could talk about that. So we'll dive right in. If you can kind of give us a really high overview of what the program is, what are the parent learning walks at Grand Haven High School?
Okay. Parent learning walks really were created out of the mindset that as we as parents get our kids into school, we at the elementary and intermediate level get asked to come in to do things like, read to our students, help backpack books, class parties. There's all kinds of ways that parents are engaged in the education during the school day at lower levels. And then as kids get older, the opportunities during the school day become less and less. And of course, parents are still pretty engaged in things like being part of whatever booster groups, if your kids are involved in band, orchestra, choir, athletics, musicals, whatever it is, our parents are certainly engaged in those extracurriculars, but I wanted to find a way to allow parents to see what it's like in a high school today. Everybody thinks that high school is what it was when we went. And some of us went farther away than others. So I won't date any of us, but the high school experience just isn't exactly what it was when some of our parents went. So it's really about just giving them an opportunity to learn about the great things we do in the building, but for them to see what happens on a day-to-day basis. And so it's really about transparency. It's really about, we're not trying to hide. We're not trying to do anything here that, I always say to parents, I start the whole thing off with, I'm also a parent in the building. I think it's pretty valuable when a lead administrator can give the perspective that when I'm looking at things through the lens of a school administrator, but I'm also looking through the lens of a parent. So that is always a great connection piece. So I don't know if you want me to walk through what the whole process is and what that looks like. What are your thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah, I was curious, I guess, before we jump into kind of the start to finish aspect of it, you kind of mentioned it's about being transparent. It's about giving opportunities that maybe they might have in elementary or middle school as a parent to be involved. A little history. How long have you been providing this opportunity, and kind of where did it just come from, that idea of we want to let parents know, we want to kind of really show off what we're doing here, right? We want to show all the amazing things that's happening. Kind of where did that idea come from?
So I did not dig back into my records. I'm going to tell you it's been a few years before COVID that I started this. Okay. And then of course I had to stop during COVID, right? So I want to say, back to 2016-17 school year, I think is when I started it. And so it was just one of those 2 a.m. Tracy Wilson thoughts of, what else can I do to grow our building? And what else can I do to give parents opportunities? And I was like, oh, why don't I try something like this? And so it just was my brainchild. And I just kind of went from there and has continued to grow what it looks like.
That's so cool. Because, I think about, we want to make the building so safe and secure, and we lock things down so much. And then we end up making it so hard for sometimes parents and guests and visitors to be able to access us and see what's going on. So I'm excited to hear about it. So if you want to go ahead and just take us right through kind of what does it look like from start to finish?
Okay. So parents find out about this through my weekly communications. Before the school year starts, our parents and students get an important date sheet. So it's a calendar of all that's happening in the building for the whole year. And of course, I put on there tentative because things do change based on unknowns. For example, our winter formal now is going to be closer to a spring fling because of the use of the facility, and it's just the dates have to move. But I put right on that important date sheet that they get in August every month when there's a parent learning walk opportunity, so they know the whole year in advance when those are. When I first started them, I was scheduling two of them a month, and I was scheduling them 2 a day. So I would do an AM and a PM.
Okay.
And so it was 4 opportunities a month. And it was pretty well attended. And like I said, I mean, what I have in front of me in my folder is back in 2017. So I think it was the 17-18 or 16-17 school year. And there was a lot of interest for parents wanting to come in. So it's either 7:45. So they get the 2 opportunities they have to sign up for is either 7:45 to 10 a.m. or 11:45 to 2 p.m. So I kind of bookmark it on the beginning and end of each day. I have it start after the morning and I have it end before the end of the day. And I tell them I intentionally do that so that they don't have to be in the mix of all the cars coming in the campus and all the cars leaving the campus. But if they really want a true flavor of what we do every day, they should probably try and drive in or leave at that time of day because it's pretty big when we have a large campus. And Ryan, funny, when I did start, there was a couple parents that said, well, I work during the day and couldn't you do one of these after hours, like at 7 o'clock? And so I called those people and I said, I am more than happy to give you a tour and talk about our building anytime that works for you. But the idea of the parent learning walk is to have parents in the building when it's full, because we walk the building. We go all over the building, and I want them to see what passing time looks like, what the cafeteria looks like. I want them to feel the building. I don't want it to be an empty building. You can look at the empty building anytime. So that's been really, really huge. One of the first things I do say to parents when we start at the beginning of the learning walk, how many of you told your children that you were going to be here today? And some of them raise their hand and say, I told my son or daughter, or some of them say, I don't. And I said, well, you're going to see them. And they're like, what? And I said, yeah, even though we're 1,800, you're going to see them. You'll be surprised at how small we are once you're inside. It feels huge, but if you didn't tell them, they might be surprised to see you walking the halls with me. So it's been a great experience, even if their son or daughter didn't know. But so what I do is they have the opportunity. It's on my calendar, which is posted on the website. I have a Google form, which is a link that they can go on. And when they go on to the Google link, it basically says, please join us. Our parent learning walks allow parents the opportunity to see and hear all about the great things we are doing. You will learn about our school improvement plan, high school opportunities, professional learning communities, student activities, and walk through several classrooms. And truth be known, I also talk about some of the things that are not going real well in that environment, because I'm not here to hide anything from them. I don't lie to them. I start the whole opportunity. I use one of my conference rooms. I have a screen up. I have my computer connected so that I can show them things. And I'll go through, I have a list of things that I want to make sure that I show them and point out. But I start by talking about myself. I let them know, I've been here in the district over 34 years. I started as a teacher coach, assistant athletic director, assistant principal, building principal now. I've raised, 3 sons. I still have 2 in the building. I think it's important today more than even when I started that they know that my kids are here too. And decisions we're making in the building, if they're not good for my kids, they're not good for any kids. And so I think, people are, because of the environment now, there's just a lot more questions. And I think it gives a little validity to the fact that I'm also on your team. I'm a parent. My kids are here with your kids. So that's been really helpful. And I think just being human and, I don't have a problem telling them about myself and about my experiences. So I like to start by making sure they know how to get to our website, what all of our social media platforms are. I think in most of them, if they're coming in, they, at least I know, get my communications every week because that's how they hear about it. But then I want to still make sure that they know how to find any information on a quick note if they need to find something. So I kind of walk through the website, how to find the calendar, how to find the academic stuff on student services page. I tell them we use our social media platform for all the positive and productive things happening. It's not, it's not a platform for ranting. So if people have negative comments, I tell them, I'm honest, I delete them. I don't leave negative stuff on the website or on the Facebook page. Instagram, I set up so that no comments can be made on it. You can't do that on Facebook. I'm learning now, they've changed it so I can make that. It is hard. You can do it on individual posts as you're putting stuff on your Facebook wall, but you can't turn all comments off on Facebook. So I do have to monitor, and I kind of do the 3 strikes and you're out rule. If I have to delete your comment, the 3rd time I have to delete something negative on the page, then I just block you from the page. I feel like you're not really here to be positive and productive if that's the case.
Yep.
And then I, it's really important to me that parents understand the demographic of our building. So I talk about, the demographic that's under our roof. I talk to them about, in our community, there's no building that has nearly 2,000 bodies that commingle every single day. We are the largest facility in our community. And so we have to have some parameters and rules in place because we have, kids at this level all the way to this level, low level to high level academically. We talk about the socioeconomic diversity. We talk about the ethnic diversity. So I just need them to know what the demographics of the building are. And then I really roll into from there our PBIS MTSS structure because I think it's important that they understand that we're trying to build a culture in this building where everybody's welcome and accepted. And we want to do interventions for behaviors and academics. And so I kind of roll into what that looks like and what our team GH matrix looks like and how we talk about together, excellent, accountable, and mindful, and what that looks like in all the different locations and venues that our kids are participating in. And all the while it's casual. It's a conversation and they can interject at any point. They can ask questions at any point. And I tell them, don't be afraid to say, hey, what does that mean? Or I heard this or that. I'm very, very transparent about, if I told you we didn't have a vaping problem in our building, I'd be lying to you. That, if you hear that kids vape at school, it's true. So it's an opportunity during that conversation to just, answer the questions that they've always been wondering about too. So, we talk a lot about like, what are our building goals? And so I talk about our school improvement plan and what our building goals look like and how we as a staff work together towards that. We're really focused on professional learning communities. And so I talk to them about what that looks like. And that's been really good because right now we started professional learning communities pre-COVID. And then we got sidetracked because of COVID. COVID really helped us look at the essential question, number 1. And now we're kind of rolling into the rest of our PLC stuff. but for parents to know that we're looking at maybe trying to build a structure where there's collaboration time within our daily schedule, because right now there's nothing in our daily schedule for staff. So that's been good because I've been able to help them understand the benefits of the process. And then, all the different course offerings that we have. When freshman parents come in, they're blown away by, as freshmen, you don't have a lot of elective opportunities to pick from. So I kind of talk about, as your kid grows into our building and gets their requirements done, here's all these really cool, in a lot of Grand Haven only kinds of electives that we offer that you don't see in other buildings. We have the benefit of being on the lakeshore, and we have the beach, and we also have Mulligan's Hollow Ski. We have a really cool 2-hour block class for seniors called Outdoor Education, where they get their hunter safety certificate. Cool. And there's just a lot of really cool things we offer that they don't even know about if they don't look at the course description guide very well. So really, it's all the nuts and bolts behind what the day looks like, the schedule, the planning that goes into it, the processes that we have, the rules and procedures. I just lay it all out, and I give them an opportunity to ask questions. So that's kind of the beginning of it.
I really like the value of kind of setting the stage for them before. So this takes place before you actually kind of do your actual walk, I assume, right? So because you might have some people coming in that are vested, that have had kids maybe go through, they're familiar, and then you have other people, whether they're new to the district or they just haven't been that engaged really until now for some reason, to be able to kind of get them all on the same understanding of kind of what's going on in your building. And then kind of like you said, you're being transparent, you're not hiding anything. So you're building trust with a group that, right now in these times, the trust has been kind of fractured a little bit in some, parts of the state with certain districts and in the community. So I really like that idea of not just, oh, you showed up. All right, we're starting our tour. Let's go walk. Because you're answering a lot of questions ahead of time. Again, you're setting the stage, giving them an understanding of why you do things somewhat the way you do, and some things you're looking to improve on, or some things maybe you're looking for help on. So I really like that idea.
Yeah. And I always ask a little bit about the group, because I want to know, like, I do a parent meeting for incoming freshmen the day that we do freshman orientation. So the kids are in the building, walking the building, and I have the parents in a parent meeting. And I have the whole how to be a high school parent conversation with them. And so I do want to know how many of them participated in that, because some of what I will do in this parent learning walk would be a repeat. But if there's people that didn't listen to any of that conversation, then I go into that stuff a little bit deeper as well. But I also get a feel for, do we have parents in the room that have been into the Performing Arts Center before, or been into the fitness center or the field house? Like, I need to know how much time I'm going to spend at where in my building when we walk. So I try to find out before we leave the conference room what you've seen and what you haven't seen. Because if they've never been in the music wing and seen our amazing Performing Arts Center, I need to make sure they get in there to see that. And then that might spark them to come to watch a concert or come to a musical or a play or something. You can't assume just because they have kids in the building, they've been at events at night. Or you can't just assume they've been to the basketball games, because not everybody has. And so I like to find that out before so that's why it's pretty casual. Like when I first started, I would get 15, 18 parents that would come. So I would do all the initial conversation, and then I would break them up with my assistant principals, and we would do the learning walk in smaller groups of 3 to 5.
Cool. Very cool.
Now I'm not getting more than about 5 to 8 at a single time. I think actually my next one so far, I only have 1 parent signed up. And I don't cancel it. I just do a one-on-one then. And that parent becomes a champion in the community of what a great opportunity and experience that was. But my APs it's on their calendar. So they know if I get too many people and I have to separate, I want to be able to walk into a classroom with 3 to 5. 8 is about the most I would do. I don't want to walk in with 15 people, because then that's harder. The kids, it's more disruptive. I want it to be non-disruptive. Our kids are so used to us, and our teachers are so used to us in and out of classrooms. It doesn't faze them when I'm walking the building with a board member, a community member, a parent. I mean, it doesn't faze them.
That's
So,
cool.
but I do think that the smaller is better when you're walking through spaces where they're trying to still do education. So that's important.
So you will obviously walk through the various parts of the building, kind of depending on what their experiences are, but then you will make it into classrooms while live direct instruction is taking place.
Intentionally, I do that. Yep. Intentionally, I'm looking at live instruction. So traditionally, I'll start on the north end of our building because that's the fitness center, the field house. We stop into the performing arts area. I go into our school store, our cafeteria, and our rotunda is the center of our building. So everything south of the rotunda is all of the academic. And I'm not saying that music and PE aren't academic, but it's more the classroom spaces. So I do the north end first, usually. Sometimes I do it the opposite, but I usually start on that end because I want to make sure we have enough time to do several classrooms. And I try to time it so when they come in, the way that I have it set up, the first half hour to 35 minutes is the end of a class. I want to be done with our conference room conversation when the bell rings so that we're in the hallway during passing time.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask you, do they get to experience trying to make it from a classroom to the bathroom to another classroom during passing time?
So I always leave the office and go out to the rotunda area. I talk to them about how the front of the building has changed over the years. Since we opened in 97, we didn't have a secure vestibule then. We do now. Yep. So I talk about some of the safety and security upgrades as we're walking because I like to show them when the building was built, this wasn't here, but this is now here because of our school safety efforts. So that's also part of what we talk about, but that's better to talk as you walk and show.
Yeah.
But then when we get out, we do that passing time thing, and then we're able to have a full class period where we're walking in and out of classes. So I don't go into the student services office. I point out where it's at, where there's support and help.
Yep.
But then we go all the way south in our building to the media center. Some of our parents have never been into our media center. And one of the questions always asked is, I see all the books on your bookshelves. Are you talking about removing them and going all digital? And I always say, absolutely not. We're not doing that. We have a large group instruction room, which is kind of like a seminar style. It's 3 tiers with tables and chairs, and you can seat like 60 kids in there. And so that was built originally thinking we might do some seminar style classes for seniors, getting them ready. We haven't really used it for that so much, but we do use it like if a biology class has a speaker that wants to come in, they can take 2 or 3 biology classes an hour into that space.
Oh, very cool.
To have the speaker present once during the hour instead of having to go to all the different classrooms. And then from there, I try to make sure I get into one of our self-contained classrooms because we have an SXI, a MOSI, and a CI classroom. So we have all 3 levels of self-contained there. We have all 3 levels of autism. We have all 3 levels of emotional impairments. And so our rooms are spread out all over the building. So I try to show them the flavor of what those classrooms look like and how they are integrated and with the rest of our building and how our kids, bring them in as though it's nothing. And then we go into science labs. We go into we have an iCreate lab. So our iCreate 360 program is an entrepreneurship, which is 2 teachers that teach the full, it's called 360 because they get put in teams. They create a product. They develop the product, they sell the product, and they build it. And it's their surfboards or their longboards.
Okay.
It's really cool. And then we auction. We have an live auction at the end of the year, and then we auction those off. Sometimes there aren't many to auction off because the kids on the teams all fight over who's going to buy their surfboard. But at any rate, that's a pretty cool class. We get into usually a math class, an English class. I don't pre-plan the rooms I'm stopping in because I like to give them an authentic look. I don't want somebody to know I'm coming and to have something special planned because I'm coming.
Yeah, this is what it looks like on an every day-to-day basis. You're getting kind of the, what happens every day here.
Yeah, I think that's authentic, and I think
Yep.
that's what they need to see, you know. Um, but but we have classrooms upstairs on our main floor. I talk about how the pods are broke up, you know, into math, English, science, social studies, or math, English, social studies. And then our science is kind of spread out in the corner of each pod because of the way it was built with gas lines and all
Yep.
that kind of stuff. Our special education classrooms are split up into all the pods where our art rooms are. And we just, yeah, we go into a multitude of classrooms. The business suite,
Awesome.
I always want to highlight and make sure they see our clothing closet and our food pantry, because those are two service projects and things that our committee are. We have a student committee for both that
Mhm.
that supply and make sure our kids are taken care of. And so that's pretty cool. And I want them to see those programs and see those spaces in the building. Sometimes a teacher, you know, I'll walk in and a teacher will stop and say, "Oh, good to see you guys. This is what we're doing." Other times they just
Just keep going
keep
like no
on and
one's
they just
there.
ignore me. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only time that I won't actually directly walk into a room is if I go to a door that I was going to walk in and they're taking a test
Yeah.
or they're watching a video, you know, something like I'll bypass that. Um, and I tell them, "Oh, we're not going to pop in there because it must be test day or looks like they're doing either a movie or a video clip for something." And it's not that I don't want them to see it. I just want it to be, I want them to see the instruction and I want them to see the engagement
Yeah.
that our students have with one another and with the staff member in the room.
Very cool. So it sounds like you cover all the different really aspects and different types of classrooms and areas in your building. So once you kind of go through the tour, do you go back and meet as a group again one more time? Do you send them on their way? Is there any
Yeah,
follow-up that occurs after the day with them? Any communication?
we go back to the same conference room because I have them leave their coats and purses and I lock everything in there. And I tell them we'll come back to this room because it's in the main office, which is where they check in and out of anyway. And then I just say, you know, because as we walk through the building, we're talking and it's casual conversation. When we go into a classroom that's full on instruction, obviously we don't talk in there. So I always say, you know, if I didn't answer a question or you have any questions, as you know, now that we've walked, is there anything else that you want to ask or talk about? And most of the time they're like, wow, they're so stunned and holy cow. And they don't have a lot of questions. And then I'll say to them, well, you're going to receive a Google form from me, which is a feedback form. And so I like to hear from them. I said, just like when you went on your first job interview and you didn't have any questions until you got in the parking lot or you were
Yeah.
driving home,
Yep.
you may think of something after you leave here. So I give them, you know, I tell them in the feedback form, thank you so much for coming. I tell them in person, now that you've participated in this, you can count on me to give you an opportunity if I ever need parents connected to anything. So I just reached out to a few parents because I needed to have a couple different parents on our district sex education advisory board. If we ever need parent input on parent participation on anything, I always say, you know, I have a growing list of people who I can tag
Oh, that's
or
true.
reach back to. But you know, I have them rate some things based on strongly disagree or strongly agree with. I found it to be worth my time. I learned some things that I didn't know about the high school. I thought learning about the goals or hearing about the strategies was important, valuable. I learned something about the demographics I didn't know about. And then I give some open-ended questions. What are some ahas that you learned while you were here today? What are you still wondering about? And what's your overall reflection of your visit? And is there any other feedback that we can grow on? And it's been really valuable information. So I just feel like having them come in, I want to have them once they go back and reflect, you know, what other things could I do different or better or add to the learning walk that the parents would find valuable.
And have they
And
been able
then
to provide? Have they been able to provide you that, like a little bit? Like, hey, have you ever considered allowing
yeah,
parents to do this? Something that has actually changed either the program itself or given you idea with something else related to your building.
well, actually, I've been able to. So, for example, I didn't always ask how many of you participated in my ninth grade parent meeting. So, I did get some feedback from a parent that said you know, a lot of what you went over at the beginning, I had already heard at the parent meeting, and
Oh,
I was
okay.
like, oh, that's a good question to ask, because maybe
Yep.
I don't have to go over all of that for, so that was really good feedback. A lot of times, you know, what am I still wondering about? They want to know, how can I get more involved? How can I be more involved, and what else can I do to help out?
That's cool.
What other ways can I volunteer if there's an opportunity during the school day? So I do give their names. Our Bucks Care food pantry is run by students, but we do have parent jobs that we don't ask students to be involved in. Like, we'll get donations, and we know that we have some of our kids that we support that have some specific food allergies, and so a parent will go shopping for the food. So if they want to volunteer, I'll give those names to our coordinator, who's one of our counselors, to say, here's a few more parents that you might be able to pick on. But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I've heard is just continue to be open, continue to do the opportunity. And I always ask them, you know, shout out to anybody you know that has questions, or if you hear people saying, gosh, I don't know why they do this, that, or whatever, ask, have you ever done a learning walk? Why don't you go in and do that? You get an opportunity to have, you know, 2 hours with the principal, you know,
Yeah, I was gonna
her
say,
attention. Yeah.
I would have to imagine that you're kind of growing a champions community, if you will, of people that are at least going to be able to, whether they agree or disagree, like or dislike, but at least they can explain the reasoning, right? Like,
Yep.
you know, they can help echo, and especially whether it's on social media or just, you know, through small talk, being able to explain or dispel things that aren't true, or just having somebody that has a better understanding and that can explain it, that isn't maybe from the school or a school administrator or district employee. So I think that's kind of an extra bonus to the program itself, I have to imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been really cool. I'll be honest with you, this year, the parents that have been involved, the individual emails afterwards that I've gotten about, wow, I had no idea. And one of the parents, they actually own a business here in town, and another one in Muskegon, north of us. You know, they actually sent me a gift card to their restaurant. Like, we cannot believe all that transpires and all that you do, and thank you so much for, you know, it's pretty evident that I am passionate about this campus, and I don't hide it. And so when they have that opportunity, I don't know, I think it's a cool opportunity to get a one-on-one. It's not a one-on-one, but it feels like it. Even if there's 8 in the room, it still feels one-on-one. It's still an intimate group, where you can ask questions. And I tell them from the very start, we are not perfect, and we make mistakes. And when we make a mistake that affects anybody's child, if we don't know it, we can't grow it. So the most important thing we can get is feedback. And it's got to be just like our teachers need. It's got to be on the spot feedback. You can't tell me 6 months after something you've been disgruntled about, that you've been disgruntled for 6 months. Like, we're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. We're human, and we got a lot of moving parts. We got a lot of moving parts every day. So I've always been, my door's open, you know, feedback is the breakfast of champions. I've always been that kind of a mindset. Until people get in a space like that, I don't know if they really believe it. You know what I mean? Like, they say, oh yeah, that's what you always hear from people. But when you get an opportunity to come in and ask the hard questions that you're hearing out in the community, or that you just wonder about, yeah, I mean, it's been really cool. It's been a great opportunity for me to get to meet some parents that maybe I otherwise wouldn't get an opportunity to meet. I tell them I'll do my best to remember faces. At this point in my career, after so many years, I don't remember every name when I run across them in town. But yeah, I'm starting to get, obviously I've been starting to get for a while, some parents that were students of mine back in the day. So that's been fun to reconnect in that way also. It's just been, for me personally, it's been one of the things that I have valued. And even if, like I said to you, even when one parent signs up, I'm not canceling it. I value the opportunity and experience so much for the parent that's choosing to sign up, that it's on my calendar. I'm not canceling it.
And so this has been really fun to listen to. So thanks again, Tracy, for taking the time to share about the parent learning walks. I usually like to ask, because I'm hoping that other administrators or other educators are listening to these and they can, their wheels are spinning in their brains right now. Like, how can I make this look at my school, which is maybe a 712 building, or how can I do this at my school that's even bigger yet? And so is there any advice you would give to anybody that maybe wants to consider starting this up? What would be the first steps to do, or other things to consider? Any advice?
Well, I would say, don't be afraid. I know right now, sometimes it's a little dicey out there and we're afraid to open up ourselves and be vulnerable. The parents in your community can be your biggest assets, and they need to know what we do behind our doors every day. And like you said, some of the lockdowns and some of the not allowing people in our buildings has created that question in their mind of what really is going on. So I think it's important to just jump in with 2 feet. It's not, in my opinion, it's not scary, because it's parents. I mean, their kids are here every day. You should want to have a relationship with their parents as well. But again, I'm an open book kind of a person, and I'm an open door kind of a person. So, I'm more than happy to share any pieces, parts. Like, I have a folder in my Google Drive that's called Parent Learning Walk. And when I started with you, I have I have in the folder that I take into the room, I have the list of what I'm going to do in that order.
Awesome.
And I've added and changed some things over the course of time, but each one of those items I have in that folder. So when they come in, that's the folder I have open on my desktop, so that I can hit, the school improvement plan. I can hit our 1-page dashboard. I can hit those things. I have a sign-in sheet so that it says on there their name, their address, or their email address, and then if they have a 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade student. But I would say, it's a great opportunity to bring more advocates in to hear, and then they are the mouth out in the community for you. And sometimes, I'll see that somebody's coming in and maybe they're not coming in. I can just tell with the look on their face. Maybe they're coming in with a lot of questions, or they're just not certain. And so then just being the competitor that I am, my goal for the day is to turn that person and make sure that they walk away with, okay, I can get on board here.
Yep.
But I would just say to anybody out there, it's a great opportunity to bring parents to the table, and to just open up your building to show what we do. So many great things every day in our buildings.
And don't let it be a secret. It shouldn't be a secret, right?
Yeah. And I do tell parents, kids talk, like, ask questions of your kids. And I know some of them are like, oh, my son or my daughter how was school today? Fine. Well, dig it. Now know a few things. Now that you've been here, you can ask a few clarifying questions after it's fine. You can say, well,
nothing. Did you learn something today? Nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So cool. Again, like before, you can put my email out there, wilsont@gheps.org. And if anybody has questions or wants to talk, I can hop on a Zoom with you. Like I said, we're big building, awesome. 1,800, and I haven't had 50 people at a time, so it hasn't been overwhelming. But when you offer the opportunities, like, I started big, and I started with 2 days, AM and PM, so I would block my whole day off, and because I wanted to make sure that anybody who wanted to come had the chance. And now I just, for the year, schedule one day a month, and I schedule either an AM or PM. I don't schedule 2 anymore. Okay. Haven't needed to. If I needed to, I would add back in. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing and being willing to share out that information on your program. So hopefully some listeners take advantage of that. And I know you are a busy person, so we got to get you back to the hallways and classrooms. So Tracy, thank you so much for joining us once again on the MASSP podcast.
You bet, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
And that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you for listening to the MASSP podcast. Remember, you can listen to this podcast and others anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Just search for MASSP or hit the subscribe button right now.